last 2 months of the year is a great time to take an inventory. The whole idea of giving up, giving it over, and giving in reminds me of this beautiful story about the caterpillar and the butterfly. But of course I tell it a little bit differently. So the caterpillar, just like each of us, wants to know a greater idea of itself, right? It sees the butterfly and it's like, I want that. This week somebody came to me and she was like, I'm struggling with envy and jealousy. And I was like, that's great. That's great. Yeah. Because you know what that is? Like, instead of judging and pushing it away, you literally want to thank that person and draw them near to you and study the heck out of them, because they are learning to fly in a way that your heart is desiring to know how to. So that's great. That means that there's a labor pain that says, there's something more for me. So great. You want to know. You want to experience that. If we don't have those things, we're kind of living in a bit of stagnation. So the little caterpillar is jealous as F about that butterfly. You know what I mean? It's like, how am I going to get there? So he says, well, if I want to be a butterfly, I got to start acting like a butterfly. So it climbs up to a very high place in a tree. It climbs a very high. If you've ever been up high before you're ready, it's really scary. So it clicks into the tree. It actually tethers itself to the tree. But it does it so that it turns itself upside down. Now the reason it does this is because it wants to see what the butterfly sees. It wants to see that bolder vision, that big, big expansive horizon. It says, I want to know what that feels like. So it starts to go up there. And then it still doesn't figure out how to fly, so it says, I must have to give away all of the things that I thought I knew. I must have to look at everything completely differently. You know, I've been looking at things like a caterpillar. So I got to kill that off. And the way it does that is it literally hangs itself upside down. So how do we let go and literally let ourselves see things completely differently? And then the caterpillar does this very interesting thing. It starts to wrap up its old self. It's like, this is done, I'm wrapping it up and packing it because it's done, right? It wraps it up and it stops feeding itself. It stops feeding its old ideas. So if there's this caterpillar mentality within you, you have to stop feeding that and start moving into the idea of feeding that inner butterfly. Stops feeding itself, and then it goes down to, it starts to throw out these enzymes inside of itself and takes itself down to gook. And the only thing that's left is the imaginal disc. The imaginal disc. Isn't that interesting? And I often think poetically that that little imaginal disc, the only thing that's left of the caterpillar, is that one little disc that says, imagine flight, imagine flight, imagine flight. And so soon enough, the caterpillar begins to reform itself, reform its ideas, reform its possibilities. But it doesn't do it without complete surrender. It has to kind of give in to the process, give over to the process, and lean into the process of learning how to be a butterfly. Sometimes we think, well, this will be graceful, but it's not, because what comes between the caterpillar and the butterfly is this hour of darkness, where we don't know who we are, what we're doing. I mean, I've had that experience myself when I let go of my job working for another church, and my husband was like, what are you going to do now? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know, but God surely has a great plan for me, so I don't think I have to know. When we study Course in Miracles, it literally says a healed mind doesn't plan, and that can really make you look at the world in an upside-down way, because it brings up all of this programming of, what do you mean we're not going to plan? If we don't plan, we're going to fail. Now, we've heard that, fail to plan, plan to fail. But it actually works not planning if you rest in a bigger plan of God. And we want to think about, what does surrender look like? This week at a meeting, I heard somebody say, I can't bend my will unless I bend my knees. And it looks like you get humble. It looks like really getting humble, like the caterpillar. It's like, I'm going to give every part of myself away. I want to re-know a new version of myself. If you're with me on morning calls, what we do in regards to surrender is we tuck our chin and bow our heads. It's old school, but it informs the internal teacher that we are acquiescing to its will, not our will. And why would you want your will when there's a will for you that's so much greater than you can even imagine? So standing in that dark hour can be really scary, but I beg you not to fill the seats. Like, I beg you to hold the space for the grand plan of God. And if you don't know, then don't do. If you don't get anything, then that's just your time to be still and let everything fall away. But know that even in that place of things falling away, you're in a community. You've got the consciousness to draw this community to you, so you can say, hey, I'm in extra grace required, you guys. Things are falling away real fast. and I don't even know who I am anymore. And we can go, oh yeah, I know, I've been there. It's all good. You're going to survive. It looks like you're growing wings. So the idea that we want to give up, like think about the things to begin with, to do this inventory, is what do you want to give up to move into this 2018, this idea of who you could be. So give up the blame. You know, any place where you're blaming someone else for your situation, like can we think about how we can take that to our internal teacher and really give up the blame? Can we give up the shame? For me, it's just not an option anymore. Where the ego will say, like, don't tell them that you're a recovering alcoholic. Don't tell them that your kid is transgender. Don't tell them, don't tell them, don't tell them, don't tell them. Don't make sure everyone knows everything's happy and shiny and well polished. It's bullshit. Like, you and I both know, like, that just hasn't worked for us. It's taken us to even darker corners where we feel totally disconnected. You know, so if one of us can stand in their authentic nature, it makes it possible for everyone to stand in their authentic nature, and that's Christ consciousness. That's what Christ did when he walked the world. That's what Buddha did when he walked the world. Like they were just saying, this is no problem. Like we're capable of this and so much more. We live in the grand web of God's design. We're all as well. We're not going to get hung up or hung out on these little illusions of separation. And the way we can do that is to be fearless about being visible and authentic. When we were talking about fear this past week, what I know is rigorous honesty is a great cure-all for fear. Rigorous honesty. So what does that look like? It looks different for you than it looks for me, but I'll tell you, where I go into fear is people-pleasing and asking for help. Those are kind of universal, but if I get to those places and I get really fearless with you and say, like, this is how it is and I actually need help from my community, it causes a place of fearlessness where we can actually get fired up together. That's available to you as well. Whatever your community is or wherever you hang, like, give your tribe the gift of your authenticness. Like, give your tribe that gift. Otherwise, we're just acting with each other. And we play out this really weird script. And it's like, and you kind of get dressed for the script and you got to say the right words. And it's like, oh my God, this is so heavy. I'm so tired of playing. Like, I really want to be real. I really want to get real with you and with myself. So give up the idea that there's a problem. Give up being the lone wolf. You know, many of us are lone wolves and we're like, God, you could probably help me, but I think I could do it better. If I just do it myself. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of give that up. Give up anything that makes you feel jagged. So that's an interesting inquisition. What makes me feel jagged? What people, places, and things make me feel jagged? For me, I had to learn that that was alcohol, and then come to find out it was also coffee. This morning, I had my almond milk with my hot strap molasses. Awesome! So delicious, and no after effect, like it's all good and no bad. So I live in a world that's all good and no bad. Like hangovers are not a part of my conversation anymore. They're just not it. If you speak your truth wherever you go, you never have to leave the room with regret or a feeling of like, I kind of left there without really being authentic and true. And we do that sometimes. We pick up these things, these relationships, these people-pleasing, these broken loyalties that are unquestioned, and we end up feeling really drained by them. So please, in 2017, leave it strong. Like, leave those on the curb. Take them out to the curb and just leave them there. You no longer need to walk around like that. Not just for your own good, but for the good of everyone, actually. Those places might be alcohol, might be caffeine, it might be certain TV shows, it might be unforgiveness. Now, this isn't true for everyone. Like, I know a lot of people that can drink all day and drink all night, coffee and alcohol, and they're like, all good. It's very personal. It's very personal. We don't want to demonize anything. But you know, because check in with your internal teacher and take care of yourself. That's called care of the soul. For me, I have a very low tolerance level. You know, I can take cough medicine and drive into a tree, which my husband has witnessed me do before. I was like, hi, Will. And I'm like, oh, no, I'm cough medicine. So you got to find out what is your spiritual kryptonite. What is your spiritual kryptonite? What takes you out of the game from being a hot knife through butter, from being super sharp? You're probably thinking about it already, like, I really need to stop that overspending, or I really need to stop hanging out in that particular circle, or whatever the flavor is for you that causes you to dull your pain. You need to know your pain. You need to get familiar with your pain, because your pain is informative. If you keep rocking that baby to sleep, you're going to live a very dull life. If you're not sure what your spiritual kryptonite is, Ask a friend. Yeah. Because your friends know your addictions before you know your addictions sometimes. Like if you're ballsy enough and you have the friends that can be ruthlessly honest with you, I've asked you before to say, hey, go to your friends and ask them, what's my strong cards? What can you count on me for? But why don't you go to your friends and say, what can't you count on me for? Like where do I really show up half-assed? Here's the places that I'm just not living in my optimal, bigger version of myself. I had this woman, that calls me every morning on the phone, and her name, I won't give her name actually, but she's called on this particular call for 5 years, and today is the first time she said, I'm ready, I surrender. For 5 years she's gotten up with me and a tribe of miracle workers and prayers, and she said, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And I would say to her, did you drink last night? And she'd say, yeah. And I go, well, I don't know if God can do for you what you're not willing to do for yourself. Like, this is the math, man. Like, you got an intolerance for it. It's beating the hell out of you. It's an abusive relationship. Like, there's nothing we can really pray for except for your willingness. So today she got willing. We'll see how that works, because willingness can be a dance. It can be 2 steps forward and 1 step backwards. Some of these things that we're holding on to, man, they are our identity, and it's so scary to give them up. So, but the idea is she asked us, and we told her the truth. Yeah, this is your kryptonite, man. You can't, see, every morning she wants me to pray for God's goodies. I'm like, you're not going to get God's goodies. You just ain't going to get God's goodies. That cannot come in the door if you keep bombarding it up with hoarding and with alcoholism. It's just not going to happen. I mean, I don't mean to bitch slap you with the truth, but what else am I here for? You know what I mean? If you don't want the truth, like go to some other church, because they'll feed it to you in lots of different flavors. So the next thing is the idea of giving over. And in giving over, a lot of times we teach her to give from the overflow. Where are you really juicy and revved up? What's the thing that delights you? We have Robert here this morning who is given from the overflow. He took this amazing picture, and he'll speak to it in a bit, but that's his juice. That's the thing that thrills him. And he's going to sell these pictures for us and give us the donations from the picture. I mean, that's a generous way to give from an artist's overflow. It's so beautiful. That's the truth for each of us. I like to say, like, if you're ragged and jagged and all kinds of hung out, like if you're strung out and you have like a broken relationship and a really serious addiction and you just got into a car accident, you're like, how can I give, right? I would say give from where it's really easy to give. So give from where it's really, 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 really easy to give. So if that means just getting out of bed and getting yourself dressed for the day in a nice way, beautiful. Like that's more than enough. If your life is working though, if like all cylinders are pretty much grooving and going in the right direction, then I would say give from where it's hard. Because you really want to accelerate that. Like give from where you feel stingy, because that will activate a greater good in your life. And at this point, if you're there, you've already mastered a lot of the principles. So now you get to move into the master class of giving from that place of agitation. So that might look for you like finances. It might look like patience, giving somebody patience. If giving people the benefit of the doubt, like that might be something that you could give. Today, one of the lessons in A Course in Miracles was all gifts my brother gives belong to me. I think this is such a beautiful lesson, so I wanted to read it to you, because when we give, it's reciprocal. So each day, it says, each day 1,000 treasures come to me with every passing moment. And I'm blessed with the gifts throughout the day in values far beyond all things which I can conceive. So it's saying that today, right now, right here, you are surrounded by 1,000 gifts. And you might not be noticing them. But if you began to take inventory on the many ways that you've been blessed, I mean, look at us. I like to say we live in a designer, house with designer shoes and designer coffees, designer relationships. I mean, we did pretty damn well for ourselves, right? But we don't appreciate those things as much as we could. And what you appreciate increases. That's what the word appreciate means. It means adding to. So if you want more of the good that you've already been able to manifest, appreciate the heck out of it, Kind of have to do that with Will a little bit. Sitting over in the corner, just go like this to me. I'm going to finish reading this because it's so beautiful. A brother smiles upon another, and my heart is gladdened. Someone speaks a word of gratitude or mercy, and my mind receives this gift and takes it in as its own. And everyone who finds their way to happiness becomes my lighthouse, pointing out I changed the words a little bit, pointing out the way to me and giving me his certainty that what he learned is surely mine as well. So when we learn these things, they're universal truths. So So they are applicable to everything. One person heals one separation in their mind, and it causes a ripple throughout eternity for all of us. So remember that when you do this work, you're doing it not just for yourself and your own consciousness, but you're doing it for everyone. Because your light shining makes the world a brighter place. So you're lighting up the world for everyone. I think that's kind of audacious. I read this quote that said, the heart that gives, gathers. The idea of giving into the plan of God. When we give in, we're talking about, so we did the give up, you know what to give up. We give the give over, give from your overflow, and then the give in. The give in is when we tap in to that internal teacher. We tap into the intuitions, the inspirations, the innocence, all of those things that live within us, and we really get intimate with our internal teacher and with our divine, whatever you choose to call it. You can call it Buddha or Jesus Christ or Mary Magdalene, whatever you choose to call it. But the idea is that you call it, that you get really intimate with it. People in my coaching classes, I have them write every day, Dear Divine, what would you have me do today? What is today about? I want to close on this story because I thought it was so beautiful. Is Jody here today? No. So this week, I do my own practice, so I sit with my internal teacher and say, what would you have me do today? And it was like, get your work done. Look at your finances, and then work with those couple of clients that you're supposed to close the door with. And I was like, I don't feel like it. I want to get a pedicure. That's what I wanted. I was like, I just want to get a pedicure. I don't want to look at my numbers. I hate that. Like, can I just do that later? I didn't even think I had that long of a conversation. I was just like, no, it's not going to happen. But I do want to expand. I do want to turn my caterpillar into a butterfly. So I didn't get too far into Maureen's plan when I was like, okay, let's really try this differently. I have all these, receipts out on my office, and I really love my office, so I do want it to look nice. So I was like, let me just go through this. And before I knew it, a little willingness goes a long way. And I got through my finances, and I was calling clients. And I called Jody up, and I was like, Jody, come on over. Let me onboard you for this class and course in creating. And she missed the first week, and she was like, she's like, you want to come to my house or can I come to your house? I go, come on over to my house, put your feet up, I'll make you some tea, you're going to be cared for. She goes, put my feet up, are you going to give me a pedicure? I'm like, no. I'm not even getting a pedicure, right? So I'm like, no. She's like, well, how about if we go to a nail salon and you do the whole thing in the nail salon? And I was like, what? Like, I had no idea how good God's plan was. I was like, you're kidding me. I'm like, that's brilliant, Jody. Meet her in the nail salon, we do the whole thing. She's loving on me, like, this is so great, this is so great. I'm like, thanks, this is so great. Like, I would have never allowed myself this, that you could have both. And then she picks up the tab. I know! I was totally blocking my good, right? So God knows us. God delights in us from the top of our head to the soles of our feet, right? But we got to trust it by doing what's ours to do. And God knows all those secret wishes and desires. This doesn't have to be a walk with God that includes sacrifice. That's an old story. Like, that's a really old story. In the new story, like, you don't have to, like, prove yourself or jump through a million hoops. You don't have to have that with your divine. Like, you could say, God, you know my heart's desire. I'm ready to go the easy way. And I will climb up the tree to see the vision. I will turn myself upside down on your behalf. I will wrap myself up and die off to anything that no longer serves me. And I will fly, and I will reach, and I will soar really high for you, God. Because in my height and in my magnificence, I hold the door open for others. So let's do it. And that's the word.
Yeah.